Valley of the Sun proudly presents a mind-movie meditation in which you are the central character on a journey of self-discovery. The adventure begins with a body relaxation and brain-mind follow-response sounds that will lightly alter your consciousness. In an altered state, you'll be more likely to attain valuable insights when offered the opportunity. During the pauses, vividly imagine what is being described. When relating the wisdom teachings to your own life, it is usually best to trust the first thoughts that flow into your mind in response to the concepts and questions. Headphones will enhance the three-dimensional sound effects and the sensation of being part of the story. Do not listen to this program while driving or doing anything requiring strict attention unless you skip the body relaxation. So now, make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and get ready to participate in a journey to the other side of the world. The Temple of Light Meditation Journey, written and read by Dick Sutton. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Allow the quietness of spirit to come in. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Allow the quietness of spirit to come in. And as you relax, your body begins to feel as if it were floating away, floating away, floating away. And this lightness spreads throughout your body and mind. It spreads down into the toes of your feet and into your arches and into your heels and right on up to your ankles. A lightness of being spreading out. And your lower legs feel the lightness. Your lower legs feel the lightness. And it's spreading on up into your upper legs. And your upper legs feel the lightness. And into your thighs. And your thighs feel the lightness. Feel the lightness. And feel it move on up into your hands. Into your hands. And your hands feel the lightness. Your hands feel the lightness. And your forearms feel the lightness. Your forearms feel the lightness. And your upper arms feel the lightness. Your upper arms feel the lightness. And the feeling now moves on down into the base of your spine. Lightness. 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 Moving up your spine. Up your spine. Up your spine and into the back of your neck and shoulder muscles. So relaxed, so at ease, a lightness of being, a lightness in your facial muscles, a lightness in your facial muscles, lightness, lightness in your throat. Allow a little space between your teeth, a lightness of being, a lightness of being, and all tension is gone from your body and mind, and your mind becomes lighter and lighter, quieter and quieter, more and more peaceful as you are illuminated by the light, illuminated by the light, and you are protected by the light. You experience the light. You radiate the light, and you invoke the blessing of the source of the light. And as your body continues to relax, your mind becomes free. Your mind becomes free. Free to leave your body and cross over onto the astral plane. Cross over onto the astral plane. Cross over onto the astral plane. You're crossing over onto the astral plane, floating free, crossing over onto the astral plane where you meet your guides and masters, where you come to learn, where you come to learn, where you come to remember, remember, remember. Long ago, in dreams, your spirit guide introduced you to a sacred temple existing in a mountain of light. Later, during sleep, while out of body on the other side, master teachers began to prepare you for a physical journey to the Himalayas. On a soul level, you've worked diligently at increasing your vibrational rate to lay the groundwork for your journey. As one of your teachers explained, the vibration of the sacred temple is so intense, it is only accessible to those of evolved awareness. No one else can tolerate the frequency. Now you may or may not remember asking the Master why you were being offered the spiritual opportunity. In response to your question, he smiled lovingly and said, "Your spiritual lineage is that of a searcher. For many incarnations you have sought truth in the wisdom teachings and have endeavored to rise above your fears. As a result, you have earned the opportunity to accelerate the process of spiritual evolution by visiting the sacred temple." You asked how visiting a physical place could so affect you. The Master responded, "A purification ritual using the vibrational energy will cleanse and balance and open your chakras. This will result in a mental cleansing, a physical healing, and an awareness of your spiritual potential. Prolonged exposure to the energy will present opportunities you are not yet ready to consider." After much discussion on the astral plane, you made a soul-level decision and accepted your teacher's offer. This physically manifested as an evolving interest in Nepal and Tibet. In your waking life, the more you read about these countries, the more you wanted to visit them. You began to think of the journey as a spiritual pilgrimage and imagined yourself hiking in the Himalayas. Trekking, they call it. Following sacred dreams about a sacred mountain temple, your desires became a compulsive need to make the journey. Then, almost magically, the funds and time became available. You trusted your instincts and made plans to fly to Bangkok and then on to Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal, one of the most mountainous parts of the world, bordering both India and Tibet. Now here you are, arriving at the Kathmandu airport to meet a Sherpa guide named Marpa. He stands in the crowd gathered to meet arriving passengers, holding a sheet of paper with your name carefully printed upon it. You make eye contact, smile, and nod. He responds by bringing his hands together in prayer position and gently bowing his head. As you reach him, he raises his eyes and says, "Namaste." You respond with the same greeting, knowing that it translates as, "I salute the spirit within you." Marpa is short, with white hair that falls to the middle of his back. He has a full beard and a warm smile, exposing several missing teeth. Dressed in loose, faded cottons and wearing sandals, he beckons for you to follow him through the throng of colorfully attired people. While awaiting your luggage in the baggage section of the airport, you take a few moments to study the man who will be your guide for the next 3 weeks. After a few unsuccessful attempts at communication, you accept that Marpa speaks very little English. After gathering your backpack from baggage and checking through customs, you exchange your currency for rupees to use on the trek. This done, Marpa gestures for you to follow him out of the airport to the auto parking area. He seems to strain carrying your backpack. Striding a few paces behind the old man, you wonder if he has the strength to guide you through the mountains. The thought generates doubts about your own ability to make such a strenuous journey. You make your way through a sea of vehicles to a 4-wheel drive Land Rover. In the back seat of the vehicle is Marpa's backpack and other equipment supplied by the trekking outfitters. As you pull out of the airport, you can see green foothills leading up to a wall of mountains. It's a sunny morning in early autumn, and a sense of exhilaration fills your body and mind. The city of Kathmandu is an eclectic mixture of Eastern and Western architecture, tiered pagodas and modern buildings, home to 250,000 people. The streets are crowded with cars, trucks, and bicycles that dart in and out of traffic. An occasional chicken struts into the confusion, somehow surviving. You are awed at the level of noise, the splashes of bright color, and the array of smells: incense, spices, garbage. As you are becoming accustomed to the chaos, Marpa turns a corner and slams on the brakes. Blocking the narrow street is a huge cow. You assume it's one of the wandering sacred cows described in the guidebooks. The beast is obviously unwilling to move. Marpa honks the horn. Someone nearby is playing music, and you notice the sound of delicate bells or wind chimes. woman in a bright red sari dashes across the street between the Land Rover and the cow, paying no attention to either. Finally, the beast saunters to the side of the street and Marpa continues the drive through the city. Rather than stay in a local hotel, your itinerary calls for you to push on to southern Nepal and the National Wildlife Refuge, where you will spend the night. The city gives way to open country, maple and oak trees and green terraced hills. You are soon ascending and descending extremely steep, narrow roads. There is no guardrail, and the edge of the roadway skirts a sheer precipice that drops hundreds of feet into a shadowed gorge. You decide it's best not to look and imagine yourself cocooned in a white light of spiritual protection. Although you see many people walking or riding bicycles along the roadway, the only other motor vehicles are vintage trucks overloaded with people or produce. You drive past terraced farms where water buffaloes are still the beasts of burden. Beyond the farms are the enormous mountains stretching into the distance, changing hues and dimensions as the sun crosses the sky, sculpting the jagged peaks with shadows. On a flat saddleback ridge, Marpa pulls the Land Rover off the road and stops in what appears to be a small house. "Eat," he says to you and gestures with his fingers to his mouth. You nod in agreement, exit the vehicle, and follow him. Before entering, you take a deep breath of the crisp air and a long look at the mountains framing the building. Shivers run up and down your arms. Marpa waits patiently at the screen door entrance. The empty room holds 5 tables. It doesn't look like a restaurant, but a moment after sitting down, a young woman enters, chattering. She wears a simple dress with an apron and striped woolen boots. She smiles at you. Marpa speaks quickly, then looks at you, speaking in his own language. You shrug, agreeing to whatever it is he suggests. When the young woman exits through a doorway to what you assume is a kitchen, you ask your guide about his ability to speak English. "I expected you to speak English," you say. He laughs, nods his head, and holds up his thumb and index finger about a half-inch apart. "Very little," you say, and he nods and smiles some more. A few minutes later, the young woman returns, carrying your meal of rice and oatmeal porridge with hot curry. For dessert, a coconut cookie sits on a separate plate. You drink hot tea, quite unlike any you've ever tasted before. Although hesitant to try the porridge, you do and find it delicious. Marpa eats the same meal, but gives you his cookie. Continuing south, you drop in elevation, and the landscape changes from steep terraced hills to tropical growth and date palms. The National Wildlife Refuge is a government-operated tourist facility in a dense jungle environment. An evening fog is slowly rising off the nearby river as you pull to a stop near a small cabin. Marpa carries your backpack to the cabin, hands you a flyer, and offers the Namaste salute. You respond, and he leaves. The flyer, in several languages, explains the guest rules and offers a schedule of evening and morning meals served in the main dining room. The flyer also describes the wildlife residing in the park and offers guests the opportunity to ride one of the working elephants. Inside the small, sparsely furnished cabin is a narrow bed with a thin mattress lying on wooden slats. A kerosene lamp sits on a bedside table. There are no pictures on the walls, no other decor. The only window is a wooden shutter, which you push up to open and prop in place with a stick. Beyond the cabin, through the fog, you see herons fishing in the river. Leaning on the windowsill, you notice large poinsettias bordering a walkway and orchids hanging from the trees. A white egret appears from the mist and flies in your direction. It veers off and disappears over the top of the cabin. For the first time, you notice the exhaustion brought on by 2 days of traveling. You sit down on the bed, open the backpack, and begin to go through the contents. Clothing, a down-filled jacket, a plastic raincoat, canteen, cup, flashlight, first aid kit, extra hiking boots, washcloths, a towel, and 3 paperback books. You scan the titles of the books you have chosen to bring along. According to your agreement with the trekking outfitters, Marpa will carry your tent, your sleeping bag, and dehydrated food. You plan to purchase some food along the way, and when possible, eat in the tea houses on the trail. Remembering the special little book that arrived in the mail a few days before you left home, you open one of the side pockets of the backpack and take it out. You have no idea who sent it to you. A handwritten title is scrawled across the plain white cover. It says, "A Seeker's Guidebook." You open it randomly and read, "Simplicity is the whole secret of well-being." Lying back on the bed, you take a few moments to relate this wisdom to your own life. Simplicity is the whole secret of well-being. What can you do to simplify your life that will improve the quality of your life? You awaken with a start in response to unfamiliar sounds. It takes a moment to remember where you are and why you're dressed in bed. According to your watch, it's 6:38 a.m. Outside, the jungle growth is silhouetted against a pink sky. You were so tired you slept through dinner, and now you're hungry. According to the flyer, at the end of the walkway, you'll find cold showers. Breakfast begins at 7 a.m. So now, towel and toothbrush in hand, you walk down the path to the showers. The main dining room is warmly furnished with circular tables topped with brightly colored tablecloths. Long windows are propped open with sticks. A dozen people are already seated, sipping steaming tea and waiting for breakfast to be served. You sit at a table with a couple from Australia who will soon go into the mountains, and 2 young men from England who have just completed a 6-week trek. The young man sitting to your right pours you a cup of tea. You are soon engaged in conversation. Breakfast is hot porridge, warm bread, and fresh mangoes. After breakfast, you return to the cabin where Marpa awaits. "Time go Pokhara," he says. He has exchanged his baggy pants for a worn pair of baggy shorts. You smile at his attempt at English and tell him it will take you a few minutes to gather your things. 20 minutes later, you were back in the Land Rover, ascending a steep road out of the jungle and into the mountains. The sun is low in the western sky as you pull into Pokhara, a dirty, unimpressive village of stone houses lying in the shadow of a 23,000-foot mountain nicknamed the Fishtail. Pokhara is the jumping-off place for trekkers. Rather than stay in a local hotel, you are anxious to get started up the trail. While Marpa delivers the Land Rover to a caretaker, you sit on a stone bench at the edge of town and read about the trail, the main trade route across Nepal between India and Tibet. A steep trail of rock steps used by man and beast for 3,000 years. Other trekkers walk past, some alone, some in groups. They all acknowledge you, kindred spirits of every nationality. Those just returning carry backpacks that show signs of hard use. Others, like yourself, sport brightly colored new equipment. As you look beyond the town to the mountain, you understand that the journey will also become a matter of climbing the mountains in your own mind. An inner landscape that takes great courage to explore. You have come here seeking something you can't quite fathom. Satori. Flashes of understanding that might change your life. Enlightenment? Of course. But there's something more. Something more. "Ready?" Marpa says. You turn to see your guide, his backpack in place, looking at you anxiously. He has traded his sandals for a worn pair of hiking boots. "Ready," you say, standing and hoisting your backpack into position. "Good," Marpa says as he takes the lead down the dusty street toward the Fishtail. Ascending the ancient steps, you often turn to look down at civilization, then up at the snow on the peaks of the mountain, glistening pink in the late afternoon sun. Other trekkers pass you on their way down. They look tired, but their greetings are cheerful. You don't recognize all of the languages. After an hour of climbing, your leg muscles begin to hurt. You didn't expect the ascent to be so steep. You tell yourself to think of other things, to take in the details of this strange world, the multiple terraces being cultivated by local farmers, the trees, their leaves just beginning to turn gold. A hawk dives out of the sky in quest for unseen prey and disappears beyond a ridge. You hear bells but can't figure out where they are coming from until you round a bend in the trail and see a man in a turban leading 4 small pack horses. Bells dangle from their bridles. The man wears a belted cloak and baggy pants tucked into red woolen boots. You step off the trail to give him room to pass, but he stops, meets your eyes, and says, Masters say to tell you that your mind is God. It can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. You're shocked and hesitate to respond. Masters? What masters? No one in this part of the world knew you would be here. Just as you are about to speak, the man moves on. You watch him descend the trail. Finally, you yell, "Thanks!" Marpa is now 75 yards ahead, ascending, moving in and out of the lengthening shadows. Increasing the pace, you feel the strain in your legs. You think about what the man said. Your mind is God. It can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. You want to apply this to your painful leg muscles, and you think about the Zen idea of using just the right amount of energy to accomplish a given result. If a walker raises dust, he is using energy that is not absorbed in fulfilling his purpose. The wasted energy stirs up the dust. An uncontrolled mind wastes energy by worrying about the past, present, and future. It allows distractions and random thoughts to keep you from focusing upon priorities, one thing at a time. You trek quietly for a while, thinking about these things. It takes 4 hours to reach the top of the pass, and it's now dusk. You've climbed 3,000 feet, and in the process worked your way through the muscle pain. Marpa says, "Camp." You nod in agreement. Obviously, your guide is quite capable of leading you across these mountains. You feel a little self-conscious about massaging your leg muscles. Within a matter of minutes, Marpa has lighted a small fire and is boiling water. With hand gestures, he asks if you want him to set up your tent. You shake your head, preferring instead to sleep under the stars. As Marpa prepares the meal, you stare in awe at the dark world from which you have come. Some clouds float below you. In the other direction, the last rays of sunlight illuminate shimmering mountain summits which appear to float above the world, spires of light guiding you on a search for yourself. You take a deep breath of crisp autumn air and shiver in response. Opening the backpack, you find your down jacket and put it on. Dinner is served on a canteen plate. Rehydrated rice and beans that taste like a gourmet meal. You eat in silence, flipping through the pages of your Seeker's Guidebook, reading the words by the flickering firelight. One page seems to stand out. It says, "If God were to tell you what he wanted done, you would be happy to do it. What you are doing is what God wants you to do. Enjoy." You smile at the words, then turn the page. It says, "Snow falling upon the limbs of strong and rigid trees builds up until the branches crack beneath the weight. Snow falling upon thin and springy limbs cannot build up, for the limbs simply yield, dropping the snow to the ground." Lying in your sleeping bag, looking up at stars that appear close enough to touch, you apply the idea of yielding to external forces to your life. During the night you dreamed of a temple of light, hidden within a sacred mountain. Awakening at sunrise, you find the world below still cloaked in darkness. You try to remember the dream, but can only recall fragments. A tiered temple, a walkway over a fish pond, vibrating discs suspended in the air. While eating a bowl of porridge and sipping tea, you watch runners of sunlight streak across the lowlands, illuminating all of Nepal. The sensation is that of a god looking down upon the world. The only sound is the wind and a flock of chattering finches that appear overhead and quickly disappear. The scent of dry leaves is in the air, triggering autumn memories that momentarily carry you back home. Marpa has prepared the equipment and is ready to begin descending the ancient steps on the other side of the pass. You soon realize that your trek will consist of thousands of steps up a mountain and thousands of steps down the other side as you travel through this ancient world, past small villages, across rivers of melting snow, and through one green valley after another. Mid-morning of the third day, upon emerging from a heavily forested area, you see a quaint village on the far side of a deep gorge. A silvery river snakes its way through the gorge and down the mountainside into a maze of canyons. The hiking trail is a series of switchbacks leading down to a cable bridge suspended over the river. Marpa hurries off in the direction of the village. You follow. It takes nearly 2 hours to reach the cable bridge, and you find it swaying in the wind several feet one way and then several feet the other. The wooden planks are old and several are missing. Without hesitation, Marpa begins to traverse the span, duck-walking, one hand holding a guide wire. Instead of following, you watch him slowly cross the 30-yard expanse. Far below, the wide river is squeezed into this narrow portion of the gorge, and the water roars like a hungry beast foraging for prey. Marpa is safely across. He gestures for you to follow. You take a deep breath and proceed to cross the bridge. Reaching the other side, you smile broadly at Marpa. He nods his head in obvious approval. At the edge of the village is a protectory stupa, a Buddhist monument symbolizing existence. Sitting upon a square red base, a large dome is topped with a spire extending up to a quarter-moon crescent and a sphere symbolizing the sun. Marpa bows his head in reverence to the object. You do the same. Eat, Marpa says, and turns to walk down the street of stone houses. Children, dressed in bright colors, play in open doorways. A woman dressed in black clothing passes in the other direction. She doesn't acknowledge you, but you raise your hand in a gesture of friendship. A dog barks from the rooftop of one of the homes. At the end of the street, Marpa turns right and enters the second doorway. You follow and find yourself in a 2-table tea house, the closest thing to a restaurant in the Himalayas. 2 trekkers, a young man and woman, are eating at one table. Speaking English, they invite you to join them. So while Marpa orders your meal from a dark man in a white apron, you sit down with a couple and introduce yourself. They are Nancy and Kevin Wilcox from London, England, and they've been trekking the Himalayas for 6 weeks. They haven't seen a snow leopard or a yeti, but they've caught sight of black bears and a red panda. You explain that all you've seen are musk deer and herds of goats and yaks. Nancy says that they are on their way back to Pokhara and Kathmandu, then home. Over a meal of hot fry bread, lentils, and 2 boiled eggs, the 3 of you exchange stories of your experiences. Finishing their meal, Nancy and Kevin excuse themselves, saying they are anxious to get back on the trail. You shake hands and wish each other well. As Kevin reaches the door, he turns, meets your eyes, and says, "Oh, by the way, the masters said to tell you, awareness is measured by how much you let yourself know of your own truth." You're stunned, unable to respond. Then, calling Kevin's name, you ask him to come back. When he doesn't reappear in the doorway, you jump up and run after him. "What masters?" you yell, stepping outside. But no one is there. You run to the corner and look down the long street. 2 children are playing ball. A farmer is walking in your direction, carrying a scythe over his shoulder, but the trekkers are nowhere to be seen. Awareness is measured by how much you let yourself know of your own truth. You walk back into the restaurant wondering, do I know my true self? You realize that you are many selves, each responding to your varied interests and responsibilities. The real concern is to be true to yourself in all areas of your life. You contemplate these things while quietly finishing your meal. On the 7th morning, you awaken to the patter of raindrops on the tent. Camped by a river in a green valley between 2 mountains, last night before retiring, you took a much-needed bath in the icy river. Now, poking your head out of the tent, cool rain caresses your face, and you see that low-hanging clouds have engulfed the mountains. Exiting the tent, you see that Marpa has created a lean-to of canvas and sticks. Wood smoke hangs low in the heavy air, and the aroma of porridge beckons. As you eat breakfast, Marpa communicates with gestures and limited words. The trail up the mountain is too steep and narrow to attempt in the rain. He wants to remain in camp until it clears. Actually, you're grateful for the opportunity to rest. Your body has adapted well to the trekking, but you'll enjoy reading and writing in your journal. Writing about Marpa, you realize how little you know of him. Although friendly and dependable, he appears detached from life. He works as a guide to earn a living, but he appears to exist within himself instead of existing with other men. As the Sufis say, he is in the world but not of it. Looking out through the flap of your tent, you see him sitting beneath the lean-to, deep in meditation. Setting the journal aside, you pick up the Seeker's Guidebook. Holding it closed, you imagine yourself surrounded with white light. You silently ask to receive guidance, and then open the book randomly. The page says, "What you desire, you also fear." You can choose either to experience the fear or to avoid it. Avoidance will be safer, but may offer less growth. Karmically, neither choice is right or wrong. Your decision generates an opportunity. The outcome will provide the lessons. The words are powerful because you can't help but relate them to your own desires. What you desire, you also fear. You decide to meditate upon the concept. The rain ceases by mid-afternoon, so you break camp and begin the trek across the valley and up the next mountain. Passing a farmer, he performs the Namaste salute, and you and Marpa return the greeting. Dragonflies buzz noisily. A flock of pigeons flutter past, low overhead. Coming to a settler's thatched home surrounded by apple trees and a garden, Marpa turns to you and says, "Rupees." You give him money, and while you wait, he goes to the door and talks with a Mongolian man wearing a poncho and baggy pants. A few minutes later, Marpa returns with a few potatoes and turnips, and 4 red apples. You both eat an apple as you walk. Within an hour after beginning the mountain ascent, you reach cloud level and climb through a damp fog, unable to see more than a few feet ahead. By dusk, you have ascended 2,800 feet and decide to camp on a ridge covered with daisies and wild strawberries. Shepherds consider it a sin to pick wildflowers, but the strawberries will be part of your evening meal. After dinner, you read by flashlight in the tent. You fall asleep considering a concept from the Seeker's Guidebook. It says, "There are no accidents. Your energy translated into thoughts, words, and emotions manifests your experiences." The higher you climb, the less people you meet on the trail. By noon of the 9th day, you reach a pass nearly 12,000 feet in elevation. It's difficult to breathe, and ice covers the puddles. Zipping the down jacket snugly, you pull the hood over your head. Marpa turns to you and says, "It's time." Looking at him strangely, you ask, "Time for what?" "Come," he says, turning to walk towards a large outcropping of rocks. When Marpa disappears behind a boulder, you follow and are surprised to find that he has entered a cave. You have to stoop to get through the opening, which within a few feet expands into a huge cavern of winds that are blowing from somewhere deep within. Stopping to find the flashlight in your backpack, you call out for Marpa to wait. Now, flashlight in hand, you proceed carefully. The walkway is flat and easy to follow, but Marpa has gone ahead. Continuing through the twists and turns of the cavern, you wonder about the temperature. It's at least 40 degrees warmer than outside, and the breeze smells tropical. The deeper you go into the cave, the more your footsteps echo off the rock walls. Rounding a bend, your flashlight beam illuminates Marpa, waiting for you at the top of a stairway. You shine the light down the stairs, which appear to descend into the bowels of the earth. The stairs are not like the steps on the trekking trail. These are carved of stone and perfectly set into place, and the walls of the stairway glow with an eerie blue luminescence. "You go," Marpa says, pointing down the stairway. You shake your head, not understanding. "The masters await you. Go now," he says, smiling. "But aren't you coming?" you ask, so concerned about the situation that you fail to recognize the quality of Marpa's English. He shakes his head. "It's your time. It's why you are here." You look from Marpa down the stairway and back to Marpa, but he isn't there. The masters again. What is it about the masters? Within your question comes a sense of tranquility, and you feel drawn to follow the stairway which curves as it descends, and descends, and descends, seemingly never-ending. It takes you nearly an hour to reach a landing and an arched window that looks out upon a tropical world far below. Looking up, you see a circle of sky and realize this is an extinct volcano, and you've been circling down the mountain within a tunnel stairway. But how could anyone have constructed such a thing, especially here in the middle of the Himalayas? And why? Again, you start to descend, down, down, down into another world. Alternating waves of apprehension and exhilaration flood your mind. Upon finally reaching the bottom of the stairwell, you stop and stare in disbelief, rubbing your eyes as if to test the reality of the sight. A tiered temple sits at the end of a winding walkway leading through an immaculate garden of flowers and tropical trees. High above, waterfalls descend from several openings in the walls of the volcano. For a moment, you consider turning around and hurrying back up the stairs before you're discovered. But you don't do it. Something is pulling you toward the temple, and you decide to go along with the energy rather than fighting it. You follow the path, through the garden, across a bridge over a fish pond filled with multicolored koi, past a meditation gazebo and directly to the steps leading up to the temple. Deciding to take off your backpack, you set it down, remove your coat, and place it on the backpack. You remember having read somewhere that one is supposed to remove their shoes before entering a temple. So you sit on the steps, unlace your hiking boots, and remove them. If this is really an opportunity to meet spiritual masters, you don't feel very presentable, although you know your physical appearance is not important. You stand, take a deep breath, and begin ascending the steps, your mind whirling in expectation. The double wooden doors leading into the temple are carved with a symbol. You run your hands over the polished wood and sense that on some level, this symbol has great importance for you. You hesitate a moment, then slowly open the door. The scent of rich incense wafts out of the temple, and in a flash of déjà vu, you sense this is a familiar aroma. But from where? When? Stepping into the temple, you hear a chorus of voices say, "Welcome. We've been waiting for you." It takes a moment to visually adjust to the dim light. In the center of the temple are 3 men and 3 women dressed in white robes, sitting upon meditation pillows in a half circle, facing an empty pillow. "Join us," they say. Startled, you introduce yourself and try to explain why you were here. "We know who you are and why you are here. Come, sit." Not understanding or knowing how to respond, you pad across the room to the meditation pillow and sit down cross-legged facing the 6. A smiling white-haired woman is the first to speak. "Your dedication to the spiritual path has earned you the opportunity to accelerate your awareness. By choosing to act upon your opportunities, you have the ability to advance many lifetimes in the time remaining in this one. A young man with golden hair says, "We drew you to our temple in preparation for the fulfillment of your spiritual purpose. You want to explain that you aren't aware of any special spiritual purpose, but a young Oriental woman with raven hair says, "You have no idea how special you are, or what you were destined to accomplish, and that is how it must remain. We ask only that you trust us to help you become all you can be." The six represent an array of ages and races and project an ethereal presence of peace, light, and love. "Are you willing to trust us?" asks a middle-aged black man. "Yes," you reply. "How do we begin?" "Like this," says the white-haired woman, raising her hands to the ceiling. You glance up at two discs suspended above your head. The discs begin to vibrate and hum as if in response to the woman's raised hands. And from the center of the discs, a ray of shimmering, iridescent golden light projects down on the top of your head. You realize that the six masters are intoning the Om, and the vibration within the room is intensifying. Shivers shoot up and down your arms as you attempt to center yourself, remaining physically relaxed, emotionally calm, mentally focused, and spiritually aware. You close your eyes and await the master's instructions. The long-haired young man says, "Focus upon the light and sound entering your crown chakra of spirituality on the top of your head. Perceive the sensations within the chakra as the light and sound floods your mind with a violet vibration. Perceive the violet within your mind. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your brow chakra in the center of your forehead, and feel it flood the chakra with blue-violet vibration. Perceive an intense shimmering blue-violet color within your third eye. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your throat chakra, and feel it flood the chakra with silvery blue vibration. Perceive an intense shimmering silvery blue color within your throat. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your heart chakra, and feel it flood the chakra with a golden vibration. Perceive an intense shimmering golden color within your heart. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your solar plexus chakra, and feel it flood the chakra with many shades of red. Perceive the intense shimmering shades of red within your solar plexus. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your spleen chakra, a little below your navel, and feel it flood the chakra with the colors of the rainbow. Perceive the shimmering colors of the rainbow within your spleen. And now experience the light and sound moving on down into your root chakra at the base of your spine, and feel it flood the chakra with red and orange. Perceive the intense shimmering reds and oranges swirling through the base of your spine. And the light and vibration has cleansed your mind of negativity. Your chakras are now balanced and energized, and your body is purified. From this moment on, you are a channel for the light, and you rise above all negative earthly concerns. From this moment on, you will sense the presence of your loving masters, and you will respond to life's situations as a master would respond, with love, compassion, and a tranquil mind. The white-haired woman lowers her hands into the namaste position and bows to you. The other 5 do the same. You return the greeting. Your body is tingling. Your mind is filled with questions. "Do you have any questions?" one of the masters asked. "Yes," you reply. "Then choose one of us to walk with you in the garden. We will explain through thought language, which transcends the limits of spoken words. It also allows us to mentally project visual impressions. So ask your question with a thought, and then listen as it is answered with another thought." So you choose one of the 6 masters to walk with you in the temple garden, and you ask the questions you would most like to have answered. In response to your unasked question about being allowed to return to the sacred temple, your master says, "Of necessity, your first visit was destined to be in your physical body, which has now been spiritually conditioned in ways you won't understand for some time. But from now on, you may project here at will during meditation or while out of body in sleep." Malarty, the Tibetan pack-horse merchant, and Kevin Wilcox come here often in this way. We ask them to relay messages to you. "And Marpa?" you ask. Your master smiles and says, "Marpa is one of us, the 7th master of the Temple of Light. He didn't converse with you because to have done so would have distracted you from the inner processes that help prepare you for the purification." Strolling to the bridge over the garden fish pond, you and your master stop to watch the koi swimming lazily below. Your reflections glisten on the surface of the pond as the fish appear to swim through you. Your master says, "Your return home will be easier than your journey here. In a few moments you will awaken feeling as if this was all a meditation. You will remember the journey, but will relate it to imagination. Please understand that it was much more than that. You have visited the Temple of Light. You have experienced the purification. It's now up to you to live your awareness. Do you understand?" You nod in agreement as your master says, "On the count of 5, you will open your eyes and be wide awake, fully alert, thinking and acting with calm self-assurance. You will feel glad to be alive and at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. Number 1, you're returning, remembering everything that you just experienced on your journey to the Temple of Light. Number 2, returning, feeling at peace with all life. Number 3, coming on back, carrying with you the balance and harmony of the purification ceremony. Number 4, recall a situation in the room from which you started your journey. And number 5, wide awake, wide awake. Open your eyes and feel good. Number 5, wide awake.